Coming up, no guts, no glory. Join us as we dissect Invincible Season 4, Episodes 5 and 6. Stay tuned.
Where is the betrayer? Here.
Welcome to the Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. And we are your host, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. Before we get started, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up, and that bell. That way you know when all these videos are dropping. Tex, how you doing today, dude?
Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. Invincible Season 4. If you haven't checked out the first 4 episodes or our conversation on those already, please go find that in the Morgue archives. Please like, share, and subscribe, all those. And if you haven't seen us in the pod feeds, we could really appreciate any reviews or reactions or comments about any of that stuff, because now we are diving into episodes 5 and 6 of Invincible Season 4, and full spoilers for everything that's happened so far and everything that's happened in these 2 episodes to come. Episode 5 was kind of like the biggest episode of the season, because with 4 we had like this filler episode. Now looking back on it, right now looking back on what we've gotten in 5 and what we gotten in 6, it's kind of like, oh, they really were kind of like twiddling their thumbs waiting for the big stuff to kick in, right? And so with episode 5 we get like, just, it starts off with like just this huge like emotional stuff, like just very, very heavy, with Nolan coming back to Earth and kind of like trying to make do on everything he did the last time everyone saw him in the first season. And we had this reunion with Debbie, which is something we were all kind of looking forward to, as in how the show would handle this stuff. And man, this is why you hire, like, I know people say, oh, Invincible, they're, Prime's paying for the cast rather than the animation, or which isn't true, but like, this is also kind of why you get like actors to
Prime is for sure paying for the cast as well for these reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sandra Oh, my goodness, she does such a great job in this scene. And there are behind the scenes footage of her in the sound room recording that scene, and it's just unbelievable. She does an amazing job. And again, this is why you pay the actors to do their job. For this reason, you cannot get that kind of emotion and that kind of scene execution without somebody who knows what they're doing behind that microphone. And this goes for the entire show. This show has an exceptional voice cast, and from top to bottom, it goes from top to bottom. And it is needed 100%, because when you do get these emotional beats, when you need these emotional beats, you have these actors to fall back on, because they can execute this. Animation aside, whether you think their hands and feet look a little funky and blocky, like, who cares? In episode 5, it shows exactly why that stuff doesn't matter. When we get to see Mark and Conquest go at it again at the end of this episode, you completely forget about any of that nonsense. Even when Debbie and Nolan are in the middle of these monologues, you completely forget about that. It feels like you're inside this movie moment. And you have that because of the voice cast. And I think it is a damn good idea to continue that process of making sure that you get the proper actors and you pay them well in order to execute these scenes, Tex. And it was just awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah, because Nolan's come back to Earth to recruit Mark for the war. And, it goes as well as about you'd expect. His thing with Debbie, just like, she's just not having any of that. He really said some awful stuff to her, and like, he's basically like lying to her face still, and like, kind of like, oh, the woman I cheated, like the woman I slept with afterwards and had a kid with, she meant nothing to me. And
it's like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, and it's like, it only makes it worse. And he's like, I'm just trying to fix it. And she's like, what are you talking about? There's nothing to fix. All sorts of complicated stuff. It all like does really well, and you get that scene where he reunites with his tailor Art afterwards, and like, Mark Hamill kind of like playing that role of like, he's treating Nolan like, as his old friend, but also very much outright saying, no, I'm not going to do anything for you anymore. Like, you're a monster, but without said it in a much better way. You know, I only work for heroes kind of thing. Nolan
I only make these
understood.
costumes for heroes, Nolan.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's such an interesting thing for like Nolan's character too, on top of that, because, you know, in that first season, he does some awful stuff, and it's like, you know, you see what happens to him in every season since then, and it's like, oh, okay, is this like a path to redemption? Not really, right? Like, he's kind of like, he's trying to be a better person, and that's where the story lies. And especially like in episode 6, you get that continuing with his son Oliver, right? You get more of that connection between the two, where, you know, because Oliver reveals that he was actually around when Debbie and Nolan were having their big conversation in episode 5. And
Mhm.
the fact that he's still mad that his father didn't even attempt to connect with him, and he's outright saying his mother was a mistake, it didn't matter. So like all that stuff, on top of him being a teen boy, it all comes out when they're like stranded on a planet together in the midst of this Viltrumite War, and kind of have to spend a few months together while Mark recovers from everything. And through all that, you get this, you get some very interesting character work for the two of them, because,
Yes.
you know, it's clear that like Oliver's bonding with his dad, and Nolan's being a better father than he was with Mark, right? Where it's like he's a lot more understanding in some ways, but like let's talk about the mark of it all too, right? Because like with episode 5 and 6, Mark's going through some tough stuff. Episode 5,
Understatement
yeah,
of the century there. So yeah, like episode 5, like I mentioned before, sees Mark again going toe to toe with Conquest. And it's it doesn't turn out well for either
yeah,
of those gentlemen. And boy, oh boy, what a tense. I don't know how long it went, but it felt like an eternity, that fight. I was literally screaming at my television for Mark to choke the living you know what out of Conquest, and
right.
like literally just screaming at the top of my lungs. And then when Conquest just puts a hand right through him, the OMG rung out loud. And oh my God, even right now, just talking about it, I feel the emotion of that day and that episode. What a fight. Mark goes down um, without hesitation. He knows what he has to do. And I love the animation in this scene. I love the fact that, you know, they showcase his hands around Conquest's throat, and it doesn't go anywhere. He's not intending to move these hands at all. And
Yeah,
Conquest understands that. And oh my goodness, Tex, what dude, such
yeah, yeah.
such awesomeness, dude.
There's a cool detail in that choke out too, because that's, he catches him while Conquest is like breathing out, and
Yeah.
he's getting ready to breathe in again, you know, because we know Viltrumites gonna hold their breath forever. So
Mhm.
Mark catches Conquest when he, in the middle of a breathe out. So when he chokes him, it's like, okay, this is the most opportune time. And this is why, like, and even with all that, Conquest is literally ripping away at him. And like in episode 5, it ends with like, if the first half was like super emotional and kind of, you know, ripped at you in that way, the second half of that episode was like, no, we're literally gonna rip Mark's guts out. And it's not only that, it's kind of like comical in like how many guts Mark has in his body, right? Because Conquest reaches in like 3 or 4 times, right? He's like pulling out
Yeah.
yards, and like it's like, oh, how many guts does Mark
Listen, we got
actually
miles
have?
of intestines apparently inside of
Yeah,
us. So,
yeah,
and Conquest made sure to, you know, to rip every single inch of those miles out of Mark.
right.
Again, me totally forgetting that he's a Viltrumite. I was like, what's gonna happen next,
Yes,
man?
yeah, because it seems really bad, right? It
Yeah.
seems like one of those things where it's like, oh, this is like, this is bad. But then you remember, like Arturo said, that he's Mark is a Viltrumite, his body's different, they can withstand more. It's comic book, it's Goku rules. You know what I mean? It's the Saiyans. Oh, when they lose a fight, they just come back stronger the next time, right? And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
when they die, they just come back stronger the next time. And that's kind of what happens in episode 6, and this is why Nolan and Oliver are stranded for so long, because Mark is also on this planet after beating Conquest and is healing. Like, he's steadily healing through several months. I think they say I think they say it's like 2-3 months.
Yeah, 2-3 months. Yeah.
I do feel like it was longer in the comic. If I remember right, it might have been a longer stint, but we'll see what that means for future events. I can't even go that far into it because I'm like, okay, I don't want to, influence anything that might happen. But
Yes. No spoilers over here because I
yeah,
am
yeah,
excited.
no, yeah, we're spoiling the animated series, not the comic stuff, because if you've heard me talk about it before, they change enough anyway to the point where like anything's a surprise, especially like the end of this episode 2, episode 6, where like the post-credit scene kind of like does the music sting and you see Conquest's grave and it like kind of gives you that oh no.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. Like the unmitigated gall of
yeah.
Nolan making a freaking grave, like not even a grave, like
Yes.
a monumental grave for
Yeah.
Conquest is. I'm like, Nolan, you haven't changed a bit, dude. And he's like,
Yes,
well,
great
he was
point.
one of the best of us and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you don't get it. You
Yeah,
don't get it.
he literally tried to kill both of your sons in the previous episode, and he did basically kill Mark. Like for all intents and
Yes.
purposes, Mark died, right? Like he died, and like that's another interesting Nolan thing you bring up because it's his arc is so curious because it's like he's on the path to something, right? But he's still like, no, he's still very much the 1,000-year-old Viltrumite that he's
Yeah.
been already, right? And it's like he's just starting to take the first baby step in becoming like a better person, in becoming like a, just not. And that's the thing, and that's why everything counter against him has been so interesting too, right? Where it's like everyone straight up tells him no, right? And he kind of throws a hissy fit about it. We see too, right? Of like that he's like mad that he's not connecting with Mark and Oliver first. It was stuff with Debbie didn't work out the way he used to. Like you see the scene where they're like Mark and Oliver are getting ready to go to war, and they have that one last dinner montage with the family, and it's like, yeah, that's good stuff, right? Because you're like, yeah, this is the stuff compared to Nolan, he's like realizes how much he threw away to be a Viltrumite conqueror.
Yeah, I really love that. Especially after that intense scene between Nolan and Debbie, we get the antithesis of that, which is this family dinner, this one last dinner. That's what Debbie said. Before you boys go into war, I would like one final thing. And it's a family dinner. And we see how much how human and how much humanity matters to them. And Nolan, that's why I love that scene with Debbie so much and Nolan, that she tells him, it's like, hey, like if I was the one that you claim tried to change you and save you, I did a terrible job because all you are is a terrible copy of a human being, and you're not even good at that. So he's really trying to be quote unquote human, but as Tex mentioned, there's really mixed feelings in there because he is a 1,000-year-old Viltrumite, and ingrained in him is the Viltrumite way. The reason he came to Earth, we find out, and this season is to breed with the humans to see if breeding with humans can make Viltrumites, because there's only like 50 of them left in the universe or whatever. So there is a definitely hidden agenda that the Viltrumites have, and we don't know how much that is still affecting Nolan. As I said earlier, he freaking built a whole, monumental grave for Conquest, a person who tried to kill or killed Mark twice, right? And tried to kill Oliver. And I love how much the supporting characters around Nolan are so different from him. And I love how they're still very scared of him and very aware of the fact that, hey, this mustachioed gentleman here once destroyed us, and it could happen again. How can we trust him? And we are here in the same boat as Mark, just listening to Alan, like, hey, Alan says we can trust him. He saved his life. He's trying to redeem himself. So let's see what happens. But I am very curious to see how Nolan's arc turns out because, as Tex mentioned, he's trying to do this thing where he is attempting to redeem himself for the atrocities of season 1. He's having very little luck with that. And the only way is by actions, right? So
Yeah.
will we see more action from Nolan to show that, hey, when push comes to shove and when the big man Thrag gets involved in this battle, where's Nolan gonna stand, right? Because we
Yeah.
find out that Thaddeus was as we spoke about in our previous conversation, there was this scourge of Viltrumites, and Thaddeus was responsible for that. And we saw that Nolan was gonna almost kill Thaddeus for finding out that information. So again, he's a Viltrumite at heart. And with Thrag Tex, I have no clue what to expect, but you told me off the air that if I thought Conquest was bad,
Yeah.
Thrag is even worse.
Yeah, and that's the thing with episode 6, right? Rounding out our conversation here, the Viltrumite War has started. Like, it's officially begun. The coalition of planets is fighting like Viltrumites across, spread out everywhere, and like Thrag officially makes his move on their home base in a surprise attack in episode 6, and like it's a big moment. You see some Viltrumites, and like some devastating stuff happens, but notably Thrag himself doesn't really do much outside of like grabbing the skull and being like, let's get out of here, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and like in it might not be the best first impression of him. I would say, like, I will say, compared to like the comics, he does kind of make a bigger impression in the comics, but I'm also going to give the series the benefit of the doubt because he hasn't done anything yet. I will say that. Like, that's the thing, is he has yet to have any direct action, and when he does, that'll be the make or break of whether or not people like this guy. And I will say that's important because he's kind of like one of the guys who's going to stick around for a while. Like, this
Good.
is he is one of those guys. So
That's good. That's good to
yeah,
know. Because
so
honestly, Tex, like, all you really needed to see was Conquest bowing down to Thrag and
yeah,
like really being belittled by him, and you know exactly where Thrag stands on that hierarchy. You know what I mean? So
right.
seeing that confrontation between him and Conquest was like, whoa, okay, this guy's
Yeah,
a real
it,
deal McCoy over here.
yeah, in that sense, Arturo, great point. That because that kind of gets me thinking. Like, think of it like WrestleMania, right? Like, think of it like you're setting up your main event match at WrestleMania, right? You're setting
Yes.
up your Oba Femi and your Brock Lesnar match, but like you can't have them fighting yet, right? Because that's your main attraction for the weekend you're selling tickets to, right? And so it's the same thing with Thrag, right? It's like you can't Thrag. He's getting closer and closer to where Mark and Nolan are, but you can't have them interact yet without giving away the whole kit and caboodle, right?
Mhm.
It's like, no, like you need to properly build up to it. You need to build the story, and I will like this is why I'm ultimately hoping, like, when he does what he's supposed to do, I do think the show is going to be able to pull it off, and I think like because that's the thing, like, spoilers, he is much stronger than Conquest, as we've already seen. So like this is kind of the thing, like, you thought
Very
Nolan,
exciting.
like,
Very, very
it,
exciting.
yeah, and it's like we've seen Nolan, right? And we've seen the peaks of Nolan's strength. He's taken out like he's wiped out an entire like civilization in like what was it, in the first season with like the time alien bugs, right? Like we've seen
Yeah,
him
yeah, with the
wipe out people,
Thraxons, right?
and that's just one, like, and that's a Viltrumite who may or may not be as strong as Thrag. I'll just leave it at that. So like we've seen what Viltrumites can do at their full power, but have we seen it? And so that's why that's interesting. That's why it's that. And and then we have Mark here, like who's like just waking back up after months and got to get to war. Like, he's got to get right back into it. So as we head into these final 2 episodes, Arturo, I am curious to see how it's all going to be pulled off. I'm curious what's next for Thrag. Like, I'm interested. The show's got me. Like, it's like, okay, that 4th episode was a little bit of a, like, looking back, you're like, oh, that's a weaker one to do.
They were getting
But
us ready for episode
yes,
5, Tex. They were like, you guys have
yes,
no idea what's
yeah,
coming
we
next.
needed
So
a
we're gonna
breather.
give you this freebie,
They
this
knew
little
we needed
soft
a
one for you
breather.
guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Arturo.
Yeah. And buddies out there, let us know below in the comments what you think of episodes 5 and 6, what you think about the whole season so far. Go check out our previous conversation about episodes 1 through 4 in our archives. And thank you so much for listening. This has been The Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. And we are your hosts, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. Big shout out goes to you guys out there for listening and for watching. We have all these episodes up on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast streams. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Leave us some stars and a review. We'd highly appreciate it. Big shout out goes to Del Virus for all the artwork you've seen in front of you throughout the years. And always, buddies, remember, it is a scary world out there, especially with these Viltrumites, but we are here to walk you through it.